This is 3 days later, and the seedlings are doing fantastic. As you can see, I did pull one out with root intact, and I'm going to try to do a few others, and we're going to see how many successes or, well, failures we have here. It's kind of a little bit of a lottery. You can just simply snip them off, but if I have any that I can save and replant, I like to try to do that. So I thought we would do a little experiment and pull some of these and set them up in a little cracky jar next to this AeroGarden Bounty Seedling Set Kit and see how they do. They don't do as well as I thought they would, honestly, and you'll see that in the end. But I'm gonna pull a few here and we're gonna see how many successes we have and set them up and see how they go. I will also in this video be continuing to do updates on the seedlings themselves, how they go, when I'm moving things out, because certain plants are going to grow at different rates than others. Like obviously these sunflowers over here, I have some dwarf sunflowers and some lemon sunflowers, and they're going to sprout up quite a bit faster than some of the other plants, as you can see, as well as the zinnias. Over here you can tell there are some that haven't quite sprouted. And here by my cabbages, I still have the little dome to try to help these ones sprout a little bit more. But I have taken off the saran wrap already because most of everything has already germinated. And I know that some will do really well and some won't, and I'm okay with that. We're going to have some losses and some successes. Oops, there goes one. I think in the end I end up having 2 or 3 that popped out with the roots. You kind of have to be gentle. I try to give it a gentle tug, and ideally like this one here, you'll see it comes out all in one piece. So that is a perfect one that I can transplant into another sponge and do the cracky jar method next to it. So far here we have 2 successes, quite a few failures. I'm going to try to pull a few others here and see how they go. I believe this is the dwarf teddy bear sunflower. So I can't wait. I'm so excited to see how they do in my front yard. They look so cute online, so I've never done sunflowers before, so I'm really excited. Hopefully I can save a couple of these guys. Nope, that one didn't go through. Let's see about this guy. I'm also kind of just pruning these out. I mean, obviously I can't have multiples of the sunflowers growing in there. Some things I don't mind having multiples of because I know I'm going to transplant them. Yay, we got one. Another one. Other things, like I just know it's not going to go well, so. But I don't mind stretching the boundaries and seeing how it goes. So I will go get my cracky supplies and show you how I do that setup. And we are back with our cracky supplies. Here I have a Grow Anything pod, and I am just going to pop the little sponges out. I decided I'm going to do 2 cracky jars, so I'm going to get these little sponges out. And then I like to pre-soak them, just run them under a faucet with water before I put them in there, since there's no little filters running water over them. All right, I have now soaked my sponges, and they are nice and wet so that I don't have to worry about them not getting enough water soaked up to the top to begin. And I'm going to get my little seedlings and insert them in these little Grow Anything pots. Now you can't just shove the little guy in there. So what I like to do is take a pair of scissors, and I put one blade of the scissor down in the hole, and I cut a vertical slit. And I like to kind of prop and wedge in my seedling right in that slit. It helps hold it up, gives it some kind of stability, and then also it helps to not, try to shove the roots through there, and already gives them like kind of a natural escape outside that little pod there where they can get down to the water. Very similar to how they were before, except I just manually cut it and made that path for them. So I will be doing that for both of these, and it has worked quite successfully before. You will see with these sunflowers, they kind of demanded a bit more light, and they got a bit leggy in the end. So I wouldn't recommend it for sunflowers, but I have successfully done this with lettuce, scallions, and a few other plants. But, you know, that's part of the fun of kind of doing these experiments, is seeing what works. I bought these sunflower seeds off of Etsy, so I wanted to try to see if I could maximize them since I did plant multiple seeds per hole. So I'm just going to set that guy in there, and we will work on getting out our other one and getting him set up. So here's my other pod, and I'm going to repeat the same process where I'm going to cut a slit down it vertically. And this will enable me to wedge that seedling in there. And this one is a little shorter root, but I want to give it a try because it's this Lemon Queen sunflower I'm really excited about. I'm going to remove the little seed casing there off because I don't think that's going to fit in there well. So let's pop that off right there. And we'll stick the little seedling back inside. And again, the goal is right here to have the roots be touching the wet sponge and have some stability. I could have probably just kind of shoved that one in the little hole, but I want to make sure it has some traction to the sponge, if that makes sense. And then gently put that in there so that the roots can go down and pop them in the jar. And then I will fill these jars up about probably 90% of the way, maybe 85%, with some water and a little mix of nutrients. And that way they will, you know, get watered, for lack of a better word. These are just old kimchi jars that we had laying around, and I manually cut those holes in them with an X-Acto knife to get them in there. And I just kind of mark what jars I use for my AeroGarden cracky purposes. So right now I went to go fill these with water. All right, now these jars have filled up with water, and I will be adding a few, maybe half a capful of nutrients. I just kind of guesstimate it. Maybe I will just wait a couple days before I put nutrients just to kind of make sure that those little seedlings take. And I will try to keep them nice and close to the AeroGarden to be able to get as much light as possible. They're not going to be directly under, and with the Bounty, it only goes so low. So I think that's probably part of the problem. You'll see in the end about why they got so leggy and just really weren't as successful as I was hoping. But hey, now we know, right? And here you can kind of see my water ratio to grow pod or plant, and I'm going to set them right next to the Bounty here, to these other seedlings. And like I said, you will see kind of in the end how they turned out. Sorry, this is a little long, but I did want to have it be holistic. Now here we are, 7 days later, and as we can see, majority of our seedlings are doing fantastic. We have a few marigolds there that are lagging behind. You can see the zinnias, and the sunflowers off to the right here are really, just skyrocketing compared to some of the other seedlings. And here we have our little cracky jar ones. You can see those guys are a little leggy. They're reaching. These sunflowers here, they're doing beautifully, and a little peek at the roots. Very nice. Great little root system. Quite long. I'll have to work to kind of get that in there with 2 hands after I take this video. But so far, so good. I'm really happy with the progress. I got my cabbage plants off to the left there, and they're doing well. Like I said, our little cracky jar sunflowers here, and they're doing okay right now. I wasn't quite sure how they were going to turn out yet at this point. Those are the beautiful roots there, you can see in the water. But they are definitely reaching a little bit for the light. And here I just wanted to give a little close-up of the straw flowers. This is still 7 days in. The marigolds in the back are doing quite well. Everything is actually doing very successfully, including these cabbage plant variations off to the left. The only thing that's not doing so great is actually romaine lettuce here, that number 6. I've grown romaine before, but here it's not doing so well. And here we are at the same time frame I decided I'm going to move these Lemon Queen sunflowers that are right here. They're big, beautiful. I'm going to move them out and plant them. That's a comparison of the same seeds and the cracky to these, but I'm going to go ahead and move them out of here because I don't want them to overshadow the other sunflowers or zinnias that are right next to it. And they have quite an extensive root system that I figured I should just get them out while I can. And again, that's just a little zoom up on the romaine that's not doing too hot. It's romaining in its seed casing, if you know what I mean. Now, all puns aside, here I am. I just wanted to show you guys the roots on these. Woo, there we go. Yes, so after 7 days, this is the roots, and I decided I'm going to go ahead and transplant these little babies outside. I think they'll do quite well at this point. I don't think there's too much advantage in keeping them in the AeroGarden any longer. They have a great start, and I will do an outdoor garden update shortly, and you'll see how these guys have grown outside. But I'm just going to go ahead and pull a few of these tall ones. His roots are a little bit shorter, but I think he will still be fine. And I'm going to get them out of here and cover those holes so that they can kind of flourish outside. And I have had quite a lot of success with these transplants on the outside. You just have to keep them watered well the first couple days. And then after that, as long as you've put them in a good lighting place that's required of that plant, keep them watered and give them, you know, nutrients or fertilizer when they need it, they're going to be fine. They don't need extra special care except for those first few days. And again, here's just a little comparison of my cracky jar sunflower plants. And here I am. I'm just placing a business card to cover the little holes so that the sunlight doesn't get in and grow algae in the water, infecting the other plants. All right, so here's an update. It has only been 11 days. It feels like it's been a lot longer. I've already moved the Lemon Queen sunflowers out, and these are the zinnias. It looks like it is time for them to move out, or I'm gonna move some of them over here in these blank spots. Marigolds seem to be doing pretty well. I'm letting the 2 grow per pod, that's okay. And the cabbage plants seem to be doing great, especially the Nappage cabbage, number 3 there. That's really banging out there. They're doing really good. The romaine lettuce, not so hot. I can tell that this is some green algae here on here at the top. And then we have one marigold that didn't do well. And then this is the straw flower. And I think the straw flowers are starting to get shaded out by the zinnias. So I'm either move them out to transplant or move some over here to do that. So we will see. But this is only 11 days. Basically a week and a half. Not even our full 3 weeks. Maybe I'll move one of these sunflowers back over here now. That might be a good idea. Because these guys are definitely a bit leggy over here in the little cracky jar next door. All right, so I'll do some rearranging real quick. And we'll see where you're at there. All right, so silly me. I just pulled this zinnia out from that middle hole here. Yeah, this is not gonna go back in the AeroGarden very well. So I'm just gonna have to transplant this. And it's actually probably good that I transplant it now because he's getting some serious roots and these guys all get really tangled in here. So I'll probably pull some of these big zinnias out now and just cover the holes. And then I'll wait to fill all these back up once these are all out. In the next couple of weeks, I'll be patient instead of like replanting something. But I'm gonna just stick him here for now. Pull all those out. And then I don't know if I'll be able to move this guy in there. That's a lot of roots too. So we'll see. So far pretty good except for the romaine and that one marigold. Wait, there's something else back there. Another marigold. So marigolds and romaines, okay. Everything else did really good. These are actually doing a lot better than my little seedlings out front. Now here we are, 17 days later, And this bok choy is doing fantastic here. It's my first time growing it, and is it yummy? Napa cabbage there in the back is also a little star of the show, doing really well. So these guys have gotten big enough that I feel it is time to transplant them out. So I will be transplanting quite a few of those guys. As you can see, I did have some other transplants that I covered the holes and moved them out with that black construction paper. I have a vast craft room supply, so I use what I have. The lemon sunflowers are still doing well over there. So, and here's the straw flowers. They are doing fantastic, much better than doing them outside, actually. They've done quite well. And of course, these little cabbage plants, I will continue to keep them in here because they're still doing well. Marigolds are about ready to be transplanted out as well. Some of them have 2 in a pod, which I left that and I'm fine. I'll see how they grow. But I will probably be moving those out as well soon. And so 17 days in, here's where we're at, folks. This is, I mean, to me, it's amazing. Like, let's just step back for a second and be amazed at, like, a little seed not only grew into this, but then will continue to produce flowers and vegetables. It's just, I just find it fascinating sometimes when I step back and think about it. But they're doing quite well, so I will go ahead here and get started to transplant these guys. Now here I am pulling these out to transplant them. I sped up the video a little bit, but I just wanted to show you guys what the roots kind of look like and how I kind of shove the roots that pull out from other plants back in and slowly tug and drag those roots out. You can see how you really don't want the root system to get too advanced because you're going to end up ripping a bunch of it out if you let it get too colossal there. So here I am just tugging them out while I still can and removing these so that I can transplant them, as I said before. And then after I get done pulling these plants that are ready to go out, I will be covering up the holes. As you did notice, there was a little guy back there that was struggling for light. So pulling these out now is not only good for the plant itself, but it's also good for its neighbors. You got to be a friendly neighbor and let the little guys have an opportunity to come forward and grow well. So I'm going to transplant these outside. I did decide that I'm going to transplant them into little pots, or in a case of like the bok choy, I'm going to transplant like 3 of them in a bigger pot, just so I can keep a good eye on them, because it's easier to do that since especially I need to keep them well watered the first couple of days, to have them either in my own little seedling pots. They are like those 98-cent pots you get at Lowe's or Home Depot. And I put a little soil and I keep them watered for a few days. And then when I think they've basically outgrown that pot, then I will transplant them into the garden bed or the ground, wherever I'm going to put them at that time. So that's an easy way to kind of keep an eye on your new transplants from your AeroGarden if you're nervous about just sticking it straight in the ground. Because if it's a plant that you highly value, I would recommend essentially up potting it in a small pot, let it get adjusted, and then moving it into the ground and do it that way. So here you're going to see I getting some of my construction paper together. I'm just cutting some slits and seeing the sizing on that, and I'm going to cover those holes up. I have a little painter's tape that I used to label all the little seedlings earlier, and I'm just using that to kind of cover it up. You could also use aluminum foil or something else that works, but I just grabbed something I had and it works for the purposes of this for now. All right, so today is March 6th, and this is what we have going on here. Everything's doing pretty good, except we have some little spotting here on this guy, the Napa cabbage, and we have one plant here that just kind of died. Not sure if it's from the green algae or what. And then we have some leggy little California zinnia giants, some teddy bear door sunflowers are doing really good here. These marigolds are doing really good, but I think I'm gonna be transplanting a lot of this out of here because I now have some really sunny space in the garden to put them. And I am anxious to plant my next set, which is gonna be a lot of flowers and some strawberry plants. So I'm really anxious to do that set and see how that goes. So I think we'll be moving a lot of the stuff, especially a lot of this cabbage stuff, out today. So this is the same day. It's actually my birthday. And I decided I was just gonna go ahead and transplant all these guys out, even these little ones that are struggling, because I'm too excited to start my next set of plantings for this seed starting system. I have a lot of beautiful flowers and some other plants that I want to get going, and I will do a video on those, but I'm gonna go ahead and move all these guys out. I am not going to plant these leggy sunflowers that were in the cracky jar. Those were not such a success, but everything else is moving on out. I thought I would just show real quick here. I pulled out the plants that I want to plant in my front yard garden. I have some straw flowers and then the teddy bear dwarf sunflowers. And I'm going to be planting some more straw flowers right here where I planted these ones. And as you notice, or I don't know if you can tell, I have a little mound of dirt around it so that when I water them, the water will kind of stay in around the plant. And that way they'll get a good drink of water, like when the sprinklers run or I water them, because for the next several days they'll need a little extra water. Also, my sprinkler system's back here, so it doesn't do it. But I have a few transplants over here. These are some other transplants that I did, and they're doing great. That's the teddy bear dwarf sunflower. Here are also some of the marigolds that I just moved out. And as you can see, they're doing pretty well. This one had two with it, and I see one was a casualty, but the other one's doing great. And I'm okay with that. I kind of left the two, and I figured I'd let them figure it out. But so far, they're doing really well. So that's what I'm gonna do here. And in the back, I'll plant the other zinnias and the cabbage. So I'll go ahead and plant them, put a little mound of dirt around them so that the water can stay in close to the plant and not just run off when I go to water it. And they'll be good to go. Yay. All right, and I thought I would just show you how when I transplant these, put this one here. Come on, zoom in, pumpkin, to the hole in the ground. A little finger. There you go. I'm gonna put this little straw flower plant in. I'm just gonna put it in with a sponge and then get my dirt around it. Tuck it in here. And then I create my little mound of dirt around it a little bit so that when I water it, the water just doesn't run away. And that's basically what I've been doing with the flowers, and they've been doing fairly well. I haven't had any issues. You could probably add fertilizer in the hole or some nutrients. I haven't, but so far they've been doing pretty well, so we'll see how it goes.